there are a lot of good trainings, but I think the most important ones to me, I think, is really learning by yourself.
Okay.
No training can replace your own thinking.
Yep.
And what I find, the internet is a great place. I spend a lot of time on YouTube watching different videos, but the important, not just to watch it, but really to sort of you have a mental debate with the person, whether you believe or agree or disagree, and then what's my position, rather. So I think that is probably to me that part is more important than any institutional training.
Oke, thank you. Kita ketemu lagi di channel yang sama ini. Nah, dalam kesempatan ini, again, saya ketemu Pak Yan. Pak Yan ini tidak hanya sekedar kolega, tapi adalah my mentor. Karena saya pernah bekerja dengan beliau selama 5 tahun di USG Boral Indonesia. Saya cukup mengenal beliau, kemudian banyak belajar. That he is really my mentor. That's why today I would like to discuss regarding the leadership insight. Nah, dalam kesempatan ini, mumpung bertemu dengan Pak Yan, saya akan mencoba menanyakan leadership insight terkait dengan dan feedback dan saran buat kita semua. Karena buat saya Pak Yan ini cukup jarang atau unik, dalam artian di umur less than 40 sudah menjadi one of the what you call it, like a country manager for industrial gas company from Perancis di Indonesia. Cukup muda, bahkan saat itu di Jayapot sekitar umur 39 ya.
39 setengah.
Jadi 39 setengah sudah menjadi CEO di one of the biggest plasterboard company in Indonesia. Bahkan sebelumnya sudah lama menjadi country manager Air Liquide di perusahaan dari Perancis. Dan oleh karena itu saat ini cocok banget kita untuk diskusi mengenai leadership. Pak Yan, thank you for coming and for this time. I would like to ask you directly regarding what is your key success factor that you can achieve your success even still on the young stage, I think.
No, I think look, I don't, to me it's more just a life experience learning.
Okay.
In my early days, I came to Indonesia 10.5 years ago as the country manager of Air Liquide, which is a company I basically joined them out of the university, right?
Okay.
So, and they have quite a robust development program. They select the young professional and then identify their career, the capability and the potentials early on, and then put them into a rigorous programs. So, for example, with Air Liquide, I was sent to attend an executive program, leadership program in Insia in 2005, I believe, or 2006, 2005. So, and then afterwards, they continue to put on more responsibilities and to build up your portfolio. So that I would say that was I don't think that was really my credit. Is probably more. I was quite fortunate to be part of that organization to give me the opportunities, to come to a country which I hardly knew anything about, to manage and lead the business, and then also give me so that was kind of allow me to build the foundations to in terms of managing a business, understand P&L fully, and then how do you drive the business, grow it, develop the team, and what's more importantly, I think, work with a completely different culture, with the language and all the other things as challenges.
Talking about the values, what is your 3 values during as a professional?
I think over the years, as you have, since then from Air Liquide I joined Jaya Board or USG Boral, and then now with BlueScope, different industry, and but more similar, a little bit has some similarity in profile, multinational companies, and so have a very strong ethics standard in terms of anti-corruptions and the code of conduct, and but also all 3 companies are dealing with the challenges of what I would call the emerging Asia.
Yep.
Right. If I look at all these 3 companies, it has one thing very in common. They all established in Indonesia in 1993 and 1994.
Yep.
So they all have gone through a period of Indonesia's accelerated growth,
yep.
and then financial crisis, and then come down, and then regain again, and then but also now we see some turbulence, but still overall the main things are good. But throughout it's not just economic situation change, it's the people are changed, right?
Yep.
And so I think the 3 main things I would summarize is, number 1, the most important is respect the culture.
Okay.
Right. We have to come in with a sense of I would say we cannot afford to be arrogant to believe what have worked for us in the past will work for sure here.
Yep.
And that's usually the first sign of failure, first ingredient for failure. So you have to respect the culture, and that's number 1. And number 2, I think it's you have to lead by example, by actions.
Yeah.
Whatever you're preaching, whatever your belief, your ideas, if you are not living by it in your own action, you cannot convince your team to follow you, right? They will just say, look, you talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk. And then, and I think that's the, and the third one, I think it's has to be adaptive, continuous learning. In terms of because every market, every culture, every surrounding are changing, and so that require us as a professionals can never say, look, I've learned enough, right? It's I don't need to accumulate more knowledges, and you need to continue. Even you stay in the same business, the business environment has changed so much. You have to be able to, you're forced to understand it, right? You can imagine in the steel business 10 years ago, in our part of the business, China was not a concern 10 years ago. Even just 10, 15 years ago, it's a very, but today, you have to understand how the Chinese operates in order to beat them, right? Otherwise, you don't even know your competition. How can you? So that's just one example, but also on the people side and everything, as a manager, we're managing a new generation of people. It's millennials, right? And then now even the millennials become old, right? Very soon. So you cannot use the same the assumptions anymore. You have to continue to adapt to that.
Okay, interesting. Now it's talking about the habit. What is your habit that really sparked in your career? I would say probably one habit to me now is it's always challenge the status quo. I like to ask questions, and especially over the now I have the opportunity, fortunate enough to be exposed to 3 different businesses, and had the opportunity to deal with the 3 different sets of unique problems, issues, in each of the business. And one of the things you always ask a lot of questions, and then the second is never take the first answer for granted. I check and recheck.
Yes, I shared with my colleague actually last week. I was in KL. We had a regional strategic meeting, and in one of the sharings I did with about my Indonesia experience. One thing I shared with my colleagues: always ask questions, you know, and but always ask 3 times. You know, same question you always ask 3 times. I guarantee you will get a different answer. What's the first answer?
Because our culture is a bit, what do we call it, like polite, not to say no or not to say a different
I
way.
give you a just quick example. I find out that I learned my lessons hard the first time. When I first came here, you ask certain things, when would it be done? I noticed the standard answer is 2 weeks. It's always like they don't know actually. They didn't know how long it would take, and they don't know how would they do it. But they will tell me 2 weeks because I figure. Then later I decided it's 2 weeks is not too long that will inquire further inquiries, but it's also long enough where
already
I won't be bothering you for the next 7 days or 10 days, right? You know. So, but then until like 10 days later, okay, so this will be done in 3 days. No, 2 weeks again. So that's kind of the trigger me to have that, you know, always. And then you realize, you know, it's so you always like ask how, you know, not just when or how, you know, you always ask how, and it's the first one, and then usually lead to a second, you know, question. But doesn't mean you have to be very aggressive or nasty, right? You know, if you want to make it a inquiry, a truly inquiry, a conversation, you know, the pieces, rather than from a demanding point of view, because that's also another importance I found. We cannot, if we act as a you know, vicious boss, usually it doesn't work.
Okay.
Right? You may get people fear you, but you don't get things done.
People fear, but we didn't get anything valuable.
Exactly.
Information or solution.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Okay. And then regarding for the skills, what is the most important thing? 3 skills that you feel is really important to in your career, professional.
Well, that'll be a bit of harder because the 3 business are in quite a unique 3 different market. There's a common things, but some are different. I would say probably one of the most important thing is to understand your customer, understand the market. Okay. That's the most important ones. You know, if you don't understand that, because all our business we rely on the values we deliver to survive. It's not just your sales team's responsibility to do that. Actually, it goes all the way to the top. If we as a company leader doesn't get it, you know, your sales team won't get it either. You know, right? Because they again lead by examples. If I tell the sales team you have to understand value proposition, what's important, but myself doesn't bother to do that.
So as top leader, you have to really know the customer, even maybe more with compared to your sales team, right?
At least from a sort of a high level. Maybe the very detail, they will have a lot more intimate knowledge, but from a high level, you understand your customer's business, right? The industry of your customer and things like that, and then will help you to make the right decisions for your. And I think that's number 1. Number 2, I would say that probably goes right back to your backyard. Is you have to be very sensitive to numbers. I think that come from an engineering background. I have this habit. Just numbers crunches very quickly in my head, which I think a lot of times allows you to be more analytical. Right? You can spot the problems. You know, in a relatively easier. I think that's probably the second one. Third one for me probably is the having the fortunate opportunities to kind of work in a different part of the world give me a view where you know there's nothing, there's everywhere is different. There is some commonality. But you can never assume one thing. If just because it worked in the U.S. doesn't mean it works in Asia. Even in Asia perspective, just because it works in China doesn't mean it works in Southeast Asia. And even you go down to Southeast Asia, just because it works in Singapore doesn't mean it works in Indonesia, right? So it's and even when you go down to Indonesia, then you have to understand it's very diverse, right? Just because it works in Jabodetabek doesn't mean it's going to work in Medan and in Sulawesi. So that I think is probably the constant, the understanding, knowing that you have to be analyzed the unique nature of everything, the complexity. That's probably it's not as much as a skill, but more it's just a learning, understanding.
And then do you have any advice to the millennial, new generation, to be success in the career?
It's tough, right? I would say the millennials, especially the new generations, as much as the new generation, you need to be understood. You also need to take the time to understand the generation before you, because that's most important. You cannot just simply demand, say, look, they don't understand us. They are so old-fashioned, right? But unfortunately, these old-fashioned people are either your parents or they are your bosses.
Your bosses, and also still have huge money.
And or even when they are not your bosses, you go to a customer. Most likely, they're the decision maker of your customer. So if you don't understand them, then it seriously hampered your ability to be success in whatever you are doing. Could be try to sell something, could be try to engage soliciting an investor, could be anything, right? The promoting an idea, and so you need to understand the generations, before you as well. And if you understood them, then I think you have a much better chance to make sure they understand you.
Any advice for the trainings that's maybe for the future leaders to be follow or figure out?
I'm not probably the best person in terms of giving advice on that. It's just because if I look at myself, I haven't really attended any training in the last 10 years. A little bit probably in the 2009-10, but ever since then, not so much in terms from a professional per se. There are a lot of good trainings, but I think the most important ones to me, I think, is really learning by yourself. No training can replace your own thinking. And what I find, the internet is a great place. I spend a lot of time on YouTube watching different videos, but the important, not just to watch it, but really to sort of you have a mental debate with the person, whether you believe or agree or disagree, and then what's my position, rather. So I think that is probably to me that part is more important than any institutional training.
Okay, it's really a good discussion today. I think for the leader insight and regarding the leadership, hope it will be useful for us and we can learn something. Thank you, Pak Yan.
Thank you, Mas Toyo.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Good. So this is your the certificate training program you were doing, or this is it's not part of the thesis, right? That one you did a long time.